Hello, everybody, and welcome to vlog number 19. Eric M and Twins 20 here. How you doing, everybody? Today is May 8th, 2020. It's Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. Um, Quick vlog I wanted to do. They released the NFL schedule yesterday for the upcoming season, if there's going to be a season with this pandemic bullshit going on. And I thought I'd give my predictions for the Viking schedule that's coming out, that has come out for 2020. Um, uh, so here's the Viking schedule. We'll do the regular season, and then I'm gonna have a little bitch fest about that and preseason because I can do that. Week one, Vikings open the season with the Green Bay Packers at home, and then week two, they're in Indianapolis. Week three, back home against Tennessee. Week four, at Houston. Week five, at Seattle, which is a primetime game, and that's at Seattle again for like the third freaking year in a row. I don't know what the NFL has against the Vikings playing the Seattle Seahawks all the time in Seattle. Why they can't make them come to Minnesota is beyond me, which I'll get into a little bit later. Week six, playing Atlanta at home, and then we have the bye week, week seven. And then coming out of the bye week, we're going to Lambeau Field to face the Packers. And then week nine against the Detroit Lions at home. Week 10 back on the road, prime time against the Bears. Week 11, a prime time Sunday afternoon game at home against Dallas. Week 12 against Teddy Bridgewater and the Carolina Panthers at home. Week 13 at home against Jacksonville. Week 14 at Tampa Bay, Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. Week 15, home against the Bears. And then to finish the season, 16 and 17, we travel to New Orleans on Christmas Day. And then we finish the season in Detroit. So that's the schedule for the Vikings. Oh, and by the way, for their preseason schedule, they take on, I believe, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Houston and Seattle. And what's bullshit about that is we play Houston and Seattle during the regular season. So why the fuck are we playing them in the preseason as well? By the way, both those games that we play in the preseason are home games. But yeah, we got to go to their houses during the regular season. If we're going to face a team during the regular season, we should not be playing them in the preseason. It's just I don't get it. I don't NFL whoever makes these schedules is an idiot. We should be and why we continue to play the same teams in the regular season year after year is beyond comprehension. We've played New Orleans how many times now in the regular seasons the last few years, as is the Seattle Seahawks. It's ridiculous. They need to fix this. They go by the way you finish your division rank or whatever. Well, I'm sorry, but it's bullshit because we're playing the same teams in the same spots in the same stadiums year after year. NFL needs to fix this. So that's my bitch fest about the schedule. But now let's get into the my actual predictions for the season. We'll start. Um, a lot of people think the Vikings are not gonna be good this year. They think they got lost so many players and have a lot of holes, and they think that the offense is going to struggle without Stephon Diggs, which I disagree with. We drafted Jefferson to replace him, who is talented. I've watched some of his game footage. He is very good, and I think he's going to complement Adam Thielen very well. I actually think the offense is going to be okay. I think the main concern, of course, for the last 10 years, it seems like, is going to be the offensive line. Personally, I don't think they're done quite yet via free agency. I think they're just kind of seeing how everything pans out. You got June 1st cuts coming up in less than a month. Other teams are going to cut players because of salary cap issues or whatnot. I can see the Vikings making a couple acquisitions. They gotta do something at their tackles position because they got nobody on the right right side. And Pat Elfheim is just, he's clueless out there. Yeah, we drafted him a few years ago to be the center. It failed. We brought in Garrett Bradbury um, as a center, and he struggled at first, but he ended the season on a positive note. We moved Elfheim over to guard on the left side, and that didn't work out. So I think the Vikings need to cut their losses with Elfheim. They drafted Ezra Cleveland, and I think they're going to start him for the time being at guard because obviously they didn't do anything with Riley Reef. He's still at left tackle. Personally, I hope Vikings can find a better guard or a tackle on the free agent list, whether it's now or after the June 1st cuts. Riley Reef is 11 million garbage. He needs to be. They need to get rid of him. He's not. He's not cutting it as a left tackle, and he sure as hell is not going to cut it as a guard if they move him. I think the team would be best bet to get rid of that terrible contract and get somebody else better in that position. Um, so I think the O line is going to be the question mark, but as far as the rest of the offense, I think we're fine. Receivers are going to be just fine. We got Thielen, we got Jefferson. Olabisi Johnson's good. He's going to be fine. Maybe they'll add another. I know they got that one guy from via free agency that used to play for Carolina, Sharp, I believe his name is. He's okay. I've seen some footage of him. And of course, you have Rudolph and you have Irv Smith Jr. So I think the offense will be fine if the line can do a better job than it has in the last couple of years and protect Kirk Cousins and give him time to make decisions, better decisions. I think we'll be okay. A lot of people are knocking Kirk Cousins because he's not a game changer. He's a failure, blah, blah, blah. Well, he can't do anything when he's on his back 3 seconds after the ball snapped. He needs protection. Uh, any quarterback needs protection. You could put the best quarterback in the league behind that offensive line the last 2 years, and even they would struggle. You could put a scrambling quarterback behind that line, and he would even struggle. It's just Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't matter. You need an offensive line to give your quarterback time to make smart plays, and Kirk Cousins didn't have that for most of the season so far last year and the year before. And no other quarterback would have had any time with that offensive line. So that's the main sticking point of the Vikings offense. It's the O line. And if the O line can do a better job of protecting the quarterback, it'll also open up lanes for Delvin Cook and Alexander Madison to do their thing and make big plays on the running game. So that's hand in hand, it's the domino effect. So I think the offensive line needs to be better. As far as the defense, a lot of people think our defense has tailed off, and it did. Our corners sucked last year. They were exposed, and we cut the dead fat. We cut the dead weight off the team. Xavier Rhodes is a shell of his former self. He is 2 years in a row now gotten worse. And it's become comical to see this act of his. Every time he gets burned by a receiver for a big gain or a touchdown, he's always coming up injured. It's always something else. Oh, I pulled a muscle. Oh, my knee hurts. Oh, my elbow. Oh, this. It got old here in Minnesota, and Minnesota wisely cut his ass. It was just old. Xavier Rhodes is he's past his prime, and he is not. I don't see him having to bounce back here wherever the hell he ends up. If he ended up anywhere, I don't even know where he's at right now. Trey Waynes, it didn't work out. They drafted him a few years ago. It didn't work out. They cut his ties with him. Mackenzie Alexander, for whatever reason, decided he didn't want to re-sign with the team. I don't get it. He was one of the better corners in the league, and he feels he was disrespected, along with his friend Ron Curse, who got in trouble last year for DWI. And Curse said he didn't want to re-sign with the Vikings, despite the fact the team stuck by him during his stupidity, DIY, and kept him employed. And he thought the Vikings disrespected him. Well, that's Pretty funny considering that they gave him a job and were there to help him out and all that, but whatever. Holton Hill, I think he's going to be okay as long as he stays out of trouble. Mostly his problems were because of weed, marijuana, but that's all under the bridge now with the new CBA agreement, and pretty much everybody acknowledging that weed's not as bad as they think it is and as made out to be. And I think it's pretty much bullcrap that it is illegal and still some places still, but that's another topic. And then you have Mike Hughes coming off the injury from 2 years ago. Last year was his first year back from the injury. So this is probably his make or break year. We drafted several defensive players for the corner and safety. So it's going to be a young group again, but I think Zimmer and his defensive coordinators, I think they can handle it. Special teams, there's been no issues with that. Dan Bailey's back. Colquitt, the punter's back. Everybody's back on special teams. So I think the question mark, and then on the D line, the loss of Everson Griffin, which I don't think is going to be that big of a deal. Everson was getting on up there in age. He didn't want to resign. He felt he was worth more than he should have gotten. That's debatable. I think the Vikings are fine where they're at now with the D line. They signed Michael Pierce, the former Raven. They got him at D tackle, and they have Fadi Denabo, who came in last year and did a great job. He had several moments where he was awesome, and I think he's going to fill in nicely for Griffin. I think he's a diamond in the rough, and I think he's someone you got to keep an eye on. So I think that's why the Vikings really didn't have a need to go after a defensive end via free agent or the draft. They have somebody, and that's Fadi Denabo. So I think the question mark for the defense this year is going to be corners and how the young guys respond and fill in for the guys that are no longer on the team. With that said, uh, my prediction for the Vikings, and I'm not saying this because I'm a fan, I'm not saying this because I'm a homer, I'm just being honest. Looking at the schedule, it looks tough, but I think the Vikings, honestly, I think they can pull it out, and I think they're going to win the NFC North. There's, and here's why: there's too much friction going on, too much drama going on across the border in Green Bay after they drafted Jordan Love. I think that was a stupid mistake, stupid move on their part. They were one game away from the Super Bowl, for God's sakes, and they draft a fucking quarterback in the first round. Your quarterback, your future Hall of Fame quarterback, who you drafted, by the way, when you had a Hall of Fame quarterback, he needs weapons. And you keep drafting players that isn't going to help him. You don't need another running back. You don't need another lineman. You need receivers. You have one good receiver. Funches is not a good receiver. He's okay. You have one good receiver, and that's Adams. That's it. They got rid of Jimmy Graham, the tight end, smartly. He's a shell of his former self, who the Bears picked up, but we'll get into that next. But the Packers didn't do anything to improve that team. Um, so I don't see the Packers being repeating the division title next year or this year. Chicago is Chicago. Their offense is still a joke. I don't believe they're that good. They have Nick Foles, but he's not much better than Mitch Trubisky, although anybody's better than Mitchell Trubisky. And it's the only way that Chicago wins the North is their defense, like they were a few years ago. But they're not going to make a deep run because they don't have a good quarterback. And they should have drafted a quarterback, but they couldn't because they traded all their draft picks away to LA, or excuse me, to Las Vegas, Oakland, to get Khalil Mack. Now, granted, Khalil Mack is one of the best defensive players in the game, but to mortgage your future and miss out on a potentially good quarterback, not only this year, but I think they don't have a first rounder next year as well. It's going to handicap them, and they could have easily gotten a better quarterback than Nick Foles or Mitchell Trubisky. There's quarterbacks available they could have gone after. They could have gone after Teddy Bridgewater, who signed with Carolina. They could have gone after Cam Newton, who would have been he's not as good as his former self, but he's better than Foles or Mitchell. Even Winston, even though he's thrown 30 touchdowns and 30 picks, he's got to be better than those two as well. But it's the Chicago Bears. What do you expect? I expect them to compete for third and fourth place with the Lions, who I also believe they're not going to do anything. Yes, they had a good draft, but it's the Lions. They didn't improve their offense whatsoever. Matthew Stafford, he's an injury prone quarterback. He's always hurt. Yes, he puts up good numbers, but he's always injured. He's and when he crumbles under pressure, he's the biggest crybaby in the NFL. I'm sorry, but the guy's overrated. The Lions are not going to go anywhere with him at quarterback, and they're not going to go anywhere with Patricia as head coach. And they've already got enough animosity. They traded away Darius Slay, which was the dumbest thing they could have done, even though Slay and Patricia didn't get along. Management should have fired the freaking coach, and they should have seen that the players didn't like him, fans don't like him. Get rid of him, start from scratch. You're used to it, do it anyway. They traded away a great defensive player in Slay. They drafted a new one, and it's going to take a year or two for this new guy to get with the program. I'm not sold on Okuda this year. Maybe in the next year or year after. I see the Lions finishing dead last again in the NFC North, if not the Bears. Those two, Lions and Bears, are going to finish dead last. So I think the Vikings are going to win the North, and I think the Packers will finish second, but they won't be like 13-3 like they were last year. Looking at the schedule for the Vikings, honestly, I think we're going to be better than last year. It's going to be tough. It is a tougher schedule. Um, if I go by week to week on wins and losses, these are just my predictions. Uh, but I think we're going to get wins. I'll just go 1 through 17. We'll just go right in order, starting with the Packers week one. I think we're going to take week one at home, even though I see Aaron Rodgers very upset leading into the season because of the Jordan Love draft. A lot of people think we're going to lose at Indy. I don't agree with that because we've played Indy before. We've also played Philip Rivers before, and we had success against Philip. Um, and Philip Rivers is a shell of his former self, so I see us winning in Indy. Tennessee will be a tough one at home, but I think we're going to eke that one out. That'll be a tight, contested one, but I think we'll win that one by at least a field goal or a touchdown. Houston, if their coach slash general manager wasn't a dumbass and hadn't traded their best receiver and probably one of the best receivers in the game, I would say this is a loss, and we'd be sitting at 3-1 heading into week 5. But it's Houston. They have one good offensive player, and that's their quarterback. Their offense is hideously bad. Their defense is still pretty good, but it's aging. J.J. Watt's getting on up there. I see this as a road win for the Vikings, and I think heading into Seattle in Week 5, Vikings are going to be 4-0. Seattle, this one's I kind of went back and forth on this one, and I was listening to Score North, which is a local radio station out of the Twin Cities that I listen on their app, and they were talking about the schedule and all that, and somebody mentioned if the NFL starts the season and they do this because of the coronavirus, there's no fans in seats, that can help the Vikings win in Seattle because there won't be crowd noise. And I thought about that. I'm like, I agree with that. But you could say the same for the Packers in Minnesota, and that'd be against us. So I could see us winning in Seattle if the 12th man isn't there. It's a possibility, but it's prime time, and we all know how the Vikings play in prime time. So I'm just going by my week 17 week predictions is based on if the NFL returns and the fans are allowed to go back, and hopefully by September, everything's figured out and we got a new, back to normal type of lifestyle and there's fans. So my predictions are based on like last year. It's like nothing happened. So there's fans, 60,000 fans in the states or stands or whatever. Um, anyways, back to what I was trying to say. At Seattle, I predict I got that as a loss. I think that'll be our first loss. And then Atlanta at home, I think we'll take them because Atlanta's kind of you never know. You can either get good Atlanta or bad Atlanta. It's on the road, or they're on the road here. And last time they visited us, which was last season, we took care of business and we won that game. So I think that'll be a win there. So heading into the bye week, we're sitting at 5-1. Coming out of the bye in Green Bay, we'll probably lose that one. It's Lambeau. We always either choke the game away or the Packers have a little help winning from the Zebras, and I think it's going to be the latter. I think the Zebras are going to come out because they don't want their golden boy Packers to blow it. And unless by that week the Packers are so bad off they bench Favre, they bench Rodgers, or maybe Rodgers gets hurt. I don't know. And Jordan Love comes in. I'm not sold on Jordan Love. I think they reached for him. I honestly do not think he's going to be. Um, I don't think he's going to be great. He might be okay, but I see the Packers kind of falling off with Jordan Love after Rodgers is gone. I think the Packers are going to be regretting not building the team around Rodgers like they should have all these years. Week 9, Detroit. I'm picking that as a win. Week 10 at Chicago in prime time. Same thing there. I'm thinking it's going to be 3 points. I think it's going to be the Chicago defense that's going to beat us there. If not the Zebras, I don't think their quarterbacks are good enough to beat us. It's going to be the defense. Week 11, faced Dallas, a much improved Dallas team, but it's in Minnesota. We beat Dallas last year, and I think we can do it again this year. It's in Minnesota. We beat them in Dallas last year. I think we can beat them at home, so that's a win there. Uh, Week 12 at Carolina. We're home against Carolina. Teddy Bridgewater returns to Minnesota. Um, Carolina's not that good of a team, to be honest. They're a year or two off from rebuilding. I think trusting Teddy is a good idea. I think Teddy's got lots in the tank, and I was actually not happy that we didn't try to make a push to get Teddy and get Cousins out of here. But we're stuck with Cousins' contract, even though he does not have a no trade clause anymore. Um, I don't see Carolina beat the Vikings, so that's another win. Jacksonville, please. That's an easy win. Week 14 at Tampa. I can see this being one of two ways. We can go in there and shock the world, or Tom Brady lights us up, or, like I said, in Lambeau, refs like to help out. Well, this is the new storyline for the NFL. I could see the refs helping out Tampa. So I got that as down as a loss, and then I see us finish the season. Um, the home finale against Bears. I see us beating the Bears at home, and then on the road at New Orleans on Christmas Day, which is bullshit. Nobody should be playing on Christmas Day, including the NBA. And Week 17 at Detroit. At New Orleans, we've played New Orleans many times in the last few years, and our record against them is very good. I think we've only lost once or twice in the last 10 years to them, 10, 11 years. And it's in New Orleans, but you know what? We beat them last year. Nobody gave us a chance, and we kicked their ass. And we beat them in the play, knocked them out of the playoffs. And that was not offensive pass interference. To all those people saying Rudolph pushed off, go look at it again. Rudolph was being hung onto, and he had to get separation. And even the officials said the same thing. It was not offensive pass interference. If anything, it was defensive pass interference. So New Orleans needs to quit crying. But we've always had success I shouldn't say always. Majority of the times we've had success against New Orleans, and I think it continues week 16. I think we're gonna go down to New Orleans and continue the ass whooping. Um, and then the week 17 at Detroit. I think by then Detroit's put up the white flag. Patricia's been fired, and I think Stafford's either hurt or he's benched for the rest of the season. I see the Lions losing that game at home, at their home. So that puts us at 12-4. I think it's very reasonable and possible that the Vikings could go 12-4, but they could also go 7-9 or 8-8 again. It's all dependent on how the offensive line holds out, and if it does hold out, can Kirk Cousins do enough to get it to his receivers? I know it's a run-first offense, but they need to throw it. They got talented receivers, 1 through 3, and or 4 if you count the kid we got from the Panthers. You gotta give it to your receivers. It's a pass-happy division or league, excuse me. Yes, Delvin Cook is one of the best running backs in the league, but he also needs to prove it himself too. He needs to stay healthy for 16 games. He wants to get paid, but yet he's not hasn't completed a full season yet being healthy. This is his make or break here, and I think that's why we haven't seen a re-signing or restructuring of his deal yet, because the Vikings want to see it, and I think that's a smart move. You don't want to pay millions and millions of dollars to a running back just for him to get hurt. I mean, look at Adrian Peterson, all that money they gave to him, and then he just, he had all his injuries and his off-field issues, and he's a shell of his former self. Even though last year was pretty amazing for him. But then again, you're on the Washington Redskins, and you're the best player on the whole team. You damn well better be playing good. So, um, the offensive line and Kirk Cousins' play is what's going to make or break the offense, and then of course the corners on the defense. So I think it's possible, maybe 11-5 or 10-6, but I think the Vikings, the schedule, I think it's favorable for them, and I think they will win the division because I think there's just too much animosity now in Green Bay between the head coach, the front office, and Aaron Rodgers, and there's too many question marks in Green Bay or in Detroit and Chicago. Detroit is a joke. It has been for years. They're not going anywhere with Patricia. Stafford is old. He's injury prone. He's not getting any better, and he just doesn't have the weapons. I mean, they got some good receivers, and tight end, but I honestly just don't see Detroit as a threat. And they're the Browns of the NFC, the bad Browns, the NFC. So that's my take on the Viking schedule. I think later on when we get closer to the season beginning, I'll do predictions of who I think where I think everybody will finish, and then go from there. So if you like this episode, this vlog, hit that like button, leave a comment if you like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. If you wish to help out with future projects on my channel, gaming or vlogs or whatever, and would like to help out, you can go to my Patreon page at patreon.com/mntwins28. You don't have to help out, but any help would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for tuning in to all my videos, and until next time,